I want you to picture something for a second. Have you ever had that feeling where you are, like, sprinting on a treadmill? I mean, you are sweating. Your heart rate is completely maxed out. Your legs are burning.
Oh, yeah.
And you are putting in absolute maximum effort just to keep from flying off the back of the belt. But then right next to you, there's an escalator.
Right.
And on that escalator, everyone else seems to be just standing there. They're casually gliding upward, looking totally effortless, maybe sipping an iced coffee.
Naturally.
Right. Just zooming right past you into the stratosphere while you are running yourself entirely into the ground.
It's awful, isn't it? You get this physical tightness in your chest just thinking about it.
Yes.
And while it's a great metaphor, it's also a very literal description of the defining psychological state of our modern era. We are living in a time characterized by this pervasive sensation of maximum effort yielding minimal forward motion, while we are constantly forced to watch the rest of the world appear to be on a high-speed track to the top.
And that exact feeling is what we are tackling in today's deep dive. We are looking at a stack of notes and excerpts from a source that is, frankly, unlike anything we usually cover here.
It really is.
Yeah, this isn't a white paper. It isn't a peer-reviewed study on workplace productivity or, a TED Talk on optimizing your morning routine.
Thank goodness.
Right? It is a deeply personal, incredibly raw piece of writing. It functions almost like a manifesto for anyone who feels left behind in today's hyper-competitive, hyper-visible world.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to unpack this author's observations on modern success culture and to explore what is actually a very radical proposition for a totally different kind of journey.
I'm really glad we were looking at texts like this, because so much of the literature we consume about success, the books, the seminars.
The endless LinkedIn posts.
Exactly. It's written from the finish line. It's written by the victors. And naturally, victors tend to look back and construct a narrative that makes their success seem inevitable.
Totally.
So to have a source document that is written from the messy middle of the struggle by someone who explicitly states they have not won, it offers us a completely different and arguably much more useful lens on the human experience.
As someone who reads a frankly embarrassing amount of self-improvement material, it is so deeply refreshing to read something that isn't trying to sell me a 10-step program to becoming a millionaire by next Tuesday.
Right.
The author starts with a really striking observation about the environment we live in. They write, nowadays, everywhere you look, someone is becoming successful. Someone is making money online. Someone is building a business. Someone is traveling in the world.
It's relentless.
It is. And it leads to this central thesis, which is social media made success visible, but it also made comparison unavoidable.
The visibility paradox. I mean, if we look back historically, and by historically, I mean just 30 or 40 years ago.
Not that long.
Not at all. Our frame of reference for success was extremely local. You compared yourself to your neighbors, your immediate coworkers, maybe a handful of public figures you saw on television.
Right.
The pool of comparison was incredibly small. But today, the denominator has just exploded. You are no longer comparing your daily reality to the guy next door.
You're comparing it to the world.
Yes, to the highly curated, globally optimized highlight reels of billions of people. What the author is pointing out is that this unprecedented level of visibility isn't just annoying, it is actively toxic to our nervous systems.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I want to challenge this idea a bit, or at least dig deeper into the actual mechanics of it.
Sure.
The author says that watching people win constantly makes us push more, work more, and stress more because we feel like we're running out of time. But is the core issue here merely jealousy? Like, oh, I want that guy's sports car. Or is it something structural? Is it that the sheer relentless volume of other people's broadcasted success makes our own internal timeline feel artificially broken?
What do you mean by broken?
Like, if I log onto social media and see that a 22-year-old just sold a startup for $50 million, and I'm, just trying to figure out how to pay my rent this month, my internal clock feels like it is fundamentally malfunctioning.
Ah, I see. This raises an important question, and it goes far deeper than simple jealousy.
Okay.
Jealousy is wanting a specific object or status someone else possesses. What the author is describing and what you are getting at with the broken timeline is an induced existential dread.
Existential dread. Wow.
Yeah, we have to look at the evolutionary psychology here. Our brains evolved in small tribes, maybe 150 people max. What sociologists call Dunbar's number.
Right, I've heard of that.
In that tribal environment, if you were falling behind the rest of the group, it meant you were going to be left out in the cold. It was a literal death sentence.
So when I am doom scrolling at 2 in the morning and seeing everyone else succeed, my brain isn't just saying, I wish I had that. My brain is saying, I am going to die.
On a subconscious biological level, yes.
That is terrifying.
It is. When the source material says that watching people win makes us stress more and push harder, it is describing a primal survival response. Your amygdala is perceiving a threat, the threat of being left behind by the tribe.
Right.
But your brain doesn't understand that the tribe on your phone is an artificial compilation of the top 1% of global achievements. So the timeline doesn't just feel artificially broken to you, it feels dangerously broken.
Dangerously.
Yeah. The squeeze of time the author talks about is the panic that the window for your life to matter or for you to secure your safety in the group is rapidly closing. And this panic is entirely manufactured by a feed full of people who seem to have already crossed the threshold of safety.
But that threshold of safety, that finish line we are all panicking about, is largely an illusion.
Very much so.
Because the author points out that when we look at these highly visible successes, we are only ever looking at half the picture. We see the final result, the money, the followers, the achievements. We see this unshakable confidence that these people project. But there is a whole other half of the ledger that has essentially been erased from the public record.
What's fascinating here is the specific, almost uncomfortable language the author uses to describe that erased reality. It isn't sanitized at all.
Yeah, not even a little bit.
They list exactly what we don't see on the timeline. The rejection, the nights they cried, the failures that broke them, the crippling self-doubt, the profound loneliness, and perhaps the most poignant one of all, the feeling of trying so incredibly hard and still getting nowhere. The text highlights a critical asymmetry in modern life.
Which is?
We are comparing our backstage reality, which is messy, painful, and full of failure, to a highly curated, airbrushed highlight reel.
It makes me think of an analogy. Imagine walking through a major city and looking up at this pristine, gleaming, finished skyscraper.
Okay.
You see the glass reflecting the sun, the flawless marble lobby, the elevators smoothly zooming up and down, and then you look at your own life and you're just standing in a noisy pit of mud.
That's a vivid image.
Right, but what you're completely ignoring is the years of messy, dangerous, chaotic digging into the dirt it took to build the foundation for that skyscraper. You don't see the concrete trucks backing up in the rain, the structural failures, the deafening noise, the sheer chaos of construction.
Exactly.
You just assume the building dropped out of the sky perfectly formed, and you are left wondering why you are the only one still playing in the mud.
That is a phenomenal visualization of the author's point. And if we take that analogy further, the text emphasizes that nobody talks about the mud.
No, they hide the mud.
They do. Nobody talks about the getting nowhere part of the construction phase. The narrative of success we are constantly sold is completely linear. You work hard, and then you achieve. It's a clean diagonal line pointing up and to the right. But the reality, the unseen portion of the success iceberg, is full of lateral moves, massive backward slides, and prolonged, agonizing periods of absolute stagnation.
Stagnation is the worst part, isn't it? Because when you are moving backward, at least something is happening. But trying with all your might and just staying in the exact same place is maddening.
It is psychologically agonizing, and when society collectively agrees to stop talking about the stagnation phase, when all our media and social platforms edit it out entirely, it leaves the individual who is currently experiencing that stagnation feeling profoundly isolated. You think you are uniquely broken because your diagonal line flatlined, when in reality, flatlining is a standard part of the human experience.
So if the system is so rigged by invisible failures and survivorship bias, how do we navigate it without just feeling like losers all the time?
That's the million-dollar question.
Well, that is where this author does something I have rarely seen in this kind of writing. They essentially step up to the microphone, look the audience in the eye, and confess.
Yes.
They declare themselves an anti-guru. They write, I'm not someone who made it. I'm not here to teach success. I'm not here as a millionaire or some motivational guru. I'm just a normal person.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that admission is a radical act of defiance against the entire modern self-help industry.
Really? Defiant.
Absolutely. We exist in an ecosystem where knowledge and perspective are usually only valued if they come from the winners. Think about it. We want the morning routine of the billionaire. We want the exact productivity hacks of the Olympic gold medalist.
Guilty as charged.
Right. We all are. We assume their outcome validates their methods. But here is an author explicitly claiming normalcy, almost wearing it as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
They state that they failed many times, they tried hard, they planned things out meticulously, they took advice from all those successful people, they started over and over, and they still couldn't become extraordinary.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I'll be honest, my first reaction when reading that part was a bit of skepticism.
Oh, why is that?
Well, we are so deeply conditioned to only take advice from people at the finish line. We want the map from the person who already found the buried treasure. So I have to play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
Why should I listen to a guy who admits he's lost in the woods? Isn't that just glorifying failure? I mean, I want to be on the escalator. What is the unique value of sharing a journey with someone who admits they are currently just as stuck as I am?
It's a fair pushback because we are trained to want the shortcut. But here's the problem with the millionaire's map. It often relies on survivorship bias. And more importantly, it frequently invalidates your current reality.
How so?
If you follow the guru's 10 steps perfectly and you don't get the millions, the implicit message of the self-help industry is that there is something inherently wrong with you.
Ouch. Yeah, that's true.
You didn't hustle hard enough, your mindset was wrong, you didn't manifest correctly. It treats life like a simple input-output machine. Put in hard work, get out extraordinary success.
And when the machine doesn't spit out the success, you blame yourself.
Exactly. But life is not a simple machine. It is a wildly complex, chaotic system influenced by timing, luck, systemic advantages, and random variables. When someone standing right next to you in the woods says, "Hey, I used the compass, I followed the map, I did all the things the guru said, and I'm still lost too," it provides immense psychological safety.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it proves that the map is flawed, not the person. The author's admission that most of the time they feel like they are just trying to survive life is a comfort because it is rigorously truthful. It removes this crushing burden of exceptionalism that we've all been carrying around.
And what I appreciate is that they don't sugarcoat how heavy that burden is.
Yeah.
They don't just throw their hands up and say, hey, I'm normal and it's totally fine, everything is great.
Right.
They don't do that at all.
No. They deeply acknowledge the pain of it. The source material outlines this very specific litany of what hurts. It hurts when your efforts don't match your results. It hurts when you see people moving ahead while you still feel stuck.
Yeah.
It hurts when you start doubting yourself. They are giving a voice to a very quiet, chronic agony that a lot of people carry around every single day while pretending they are fine. That asymmetrical effort-to-reward ratio is exactly what burns people out. It's the treadmill feeling you mentioned at the start.
Right.
And by putting a name to that specific pain, the author does something vital. They validate the grief of the unfulfilled potential. But they don't stop there. They use that pain as the foundation to completely redefine the concept of resilience.
Because the traditional success narrative defines resilience as just a temporary state of suffering that inevitably leads to a massive victory. It's the whole bounce back concept.
Right. It's the idea that you are only suffering now so that the victory speech later sounds better. Traditional resilience is entirely outcome dependent.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the author strips away all that glamour. Their response to all that chronic hurt, to the asymmetry of effort, is simply still here, still trying, still failing, still learning, still getting up again.
Wow.
The resilience here isn't defined by a guarantee of ultimate victory. The author is remarkably honest.
Yeah.
They explicitly state they don't know if they will ever truly make it in the way society defines it.
Right.
Resilience, in this new context, is the willingness to continue a real journey of fighting insecurities, getting up after giving up, and trying to become slightly better, even when life feels incredibly heavy, with zero promise of a trophy at the end.
It totally shifts the genre of the story we think we are living in. I think a lot of us walk around believing we are the protagonist in a superhero movie.
Right.
And in the superhero movie, the hero faces a setback. They go through a gritty training montage set to some incredibly motivating music. They figure out their flaw, unlock their ultimate powers, and save the city. It's a clean art.
Very clean.
But the author is basically saying life isn't a montage. There is no background music. It's a story about choosing to walk out the front door every single day, even when gravity feels twice as heavy as it should.
Yes.
It is the mundane, unglamorous heroism of simply continuing to try without the promise of superpowers.
I love that phrasing, mundane heroism. The goal of this new kind of resilience isn't to suddenly become frictionless. We spend so much money and energy trying to buy our way into a frictionless life. Seriously, so much money.
Right. But the actual goal is to learn how to exist within the friction. The author's journey is not a path to perfection. It is a commitment to participation. And by framing it that way, they completely neutralize the toxic comparison we discussed earlier.
Because if your goal is just to participate, the guy on the escalator doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly. If your goal is no longer to be statistically extraordinary, but simply to be real, to be present, and to keep trying in your own mud pit, then the person zooming by on the escalator loses their psychological power over your self-worth.
That's incredible.
You are no longer losing their race because you are running a different race entirely.
So what does this all mean? How do we actually land this plane? The text does something beautiful at the very end. It pivots entirely.
It does.
It moves from outlining the crushing pressures of modern life and from confessing the author's own perceived shortcomings to extending a hand to the reader. They essentially issue an invitation.
An invitation to what exactly? They ask you, the listener, if you feel lost, if you feel confused, pressured, or left behind in life, to walk this unglamorous, imperfect, but absolutely real journey together.
It is a brilliant rhetorical and emotional shift. The author transforms their own perceived failure, their lack of a glossy finish line, into the very foundation for community.
Yeah.
They are saying, I may not have a success story to offer you, I may not have the secret to making millions, but I have a real story, and there is room in it for you. It is the ultimate antidote to the loneliness of the success iceberg.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to ask you, the listener, to do a little bit of auditing in your own life today.
Yeah.
Take a look at the people you're following, the expectations you were setting for yourself, and the timelines you think you are supposed to be hitting.
That's a great exercise.
Where are you unfairly holding yourself to the highly visible, highly curated successes of others? Where are you looking at someone else's finished cleaning skyscraper and beating yourself up because you are still in the mud, pouring your own concrete?
Right.
Because what this incredibly raw text reminds us is that the concrete phase is where everyone actually lives, even if social media desperately pretends otherwise.
And the most crucial takeaway from all of this is that the exhaustion you feel, that burning in your legs on the treadmill, is not a symptom of your personal inadequacy.
Say that again.
It is not a symptom of your personal inadequacy. It is a symptom of an environment that demands constant, visible exceptionalism from every single person, which is a mathematical impossibility. Recognizing that the system is what's broken, not you, is the first real step toward reclaiming your own pace.
Well said. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something to take with you after this deep dive ends. The author states plainly that they don't know if they will ever truly make it in the traditional sense of the word. They might never get the sports car or the million followers. But imagine if a whole community of people decides to collectively abandon the isolating, crushing pressure of trying to be extraordinary. Imagine if instead they embrace the shared, honest, messy reality of just surviving, failing, and trying together. Doesn't that shared vulnerability become its own extraordinary kind of success?